What's up, tennis fans? Sleepy Picks here. We got some quarterfinals to talk about at the Barcelona Open. Let's take a look at the draw. Here's a look at Alcaraz's half of the draw. As we spoke about yesterday, Alcaraz withdrawing with a wrist injury from the tournament, so Machac gets through to the quarterfinals. He will take on Andre Rublev, who was able to beat Sonego 6-2, 6-3. We talked about how Sonego had really dominated the clay court head-to-head against Rublev. So nice win for Rublev to get through in straight sets. I will say that Sonego match was not Sonego at his best. I think it was clear that the movement was a little bit limited. The shots just didn't have the zip that they normally had, especially that serve. He could normally really push Rublev back with the serve and dictate with the forehand, but he didn't have much. He was trying to get to net and play that all-around game, use the drop, but Rublev just the steadier of the two, and he was able to get everything back and start to impose his own offense. He looked solid. Again, we talk about Rublev, how he's able to kind of keep his nerve a little bit against some of these players, especially guys that maybe he's lost to before. So he did a good job. I mean, there was one changeover where they zoomed in on Rublev and he's got his eyes closed, like he's just trying to summon that inner zen, that calmness so he doesn't explode and lose control of the match. So like to see that. Looking at this head-to-head here for Machac and Rublev, it is 1-0 for Machac. Machac getting the win in Miami 2024 second round 6-4, 6-4, a straight set win over Rublev. Coming into this match, Machac is 3-2 on the clay, 2-5 last year, 9-5 the year before. Rublev, on the other hand, is 3-1 on the clay right now, 8-6 last year, 11-6 the year before. So I guess we can say Rublev does play a little bit better on the clay, but Machac has been a pretty solid player so far on the clay. We watched him take a set off of Sinner in Monte Carlo, and we saw him go 3 sets with Jodar, who is undefeated on the clay. Sinner also undefeated on the clay. And those are the two losses that Machac has had. Now, Carlos withdrawing there, that was a match that I think would have been a good barometer for us to tell where this Machac game was. If he was able to kind of hang with Carlos, I think that tells us that his clay court game has been playing a lot better. 3 sets with Baez in the first round. He was able to steady the ship, I think, 6-4, 6-1 in the final 2 sets, which was good for him. Start to impose his game a little bit more, get up an early break in that third set, and just kind of cruise through to it. Rublev, on the other hand, came to Monte Carlo, beat Nuno Borges in 3 sets, lost to Zizou Bergs in straights, beats Novoni and Sonego. Novoni, a very good win for Rublev. We remember that Novoni was able to win Bucharest a couple of weeks ago. He's playing good clay court tennis, so that's a solid win for Rublev. I know that I picked against Rublev twice, and I've been wrong twice. And I'm kind of inclined to do it again here. We got Machac only an hour and 40 minutes on the clay. With that match against Baez, Rublev's played 3.5 hours. Don't think that's going to affect either of those guys. The one thing that I will say, and it's always a little bit tough, and we kind of saw it with Darderi. Remember with Darderi in Marrakesh, he got that walkover from Hanfman, and he had like a 3-day stretch where he didn't play. So I feel like that affects you where like you don't, these guys as they go deeper and deeper into the tournament, they become tougher and tougher. They've faced adversity throughout some of these matches. Rublev maybe not so much. The second set against Novoni was a pretty tricky set for him to kind of hold on and win that. But for Machac, if he was able to get through Carlos in a real match, I think that would have definitely given us a little bit more confidence that he's going to be able to take on a guy like Rublev. But now we've had Machac. He's been out for a few days now. Hasn't played since the 14th, so that's 2 days. I I just kind of feel like that might come into play here. We might see a little bit of a slow start from Machac, but at the same time, I think the aggression that we get from Machac, you know, the all-around game, coming into net, hitting that big, powerful forehand, that's going to frustrate Rublev a lot. And the Rublev balls, they do tend to sit for you. Like his shots don't rip as much as they would normally on a faster hard court. We know Rublev loves it over in Doha and Dubai, where his shots really zip through the court. But here they might be sitting a little bit, so a guy like Machac is going to be able to take advantage of that. I have a weird feeling this is going to be a three-setter, but I'm going to go with Machac. I like his game. I like what I've seen. I loved what I saw from Machac against Sinner. We know he can put in some stinkers of matches, so yes, this could be out of nowhere. This could be like a 6-1, 6-0 win for Rublev. I don't think it's going to be. I think we're going to get some consistency for Machac, and when we look at the draw as a whole, I'll talk to you a little bit about kind of some of these storylines from these guys coming here and potentially being able to make it out to the finals. But for now, give me Machac in 3. Here's a look at Alcaraz's half of the draw, and we did talk about the Medjedovic and Borges in our Part 1 quarterfinal breakdown. So if you want a full breakdown of that, go ahead and check that out. But I'll give you guys the cliff notes. Medjedovic able to get through de Minaur, and he looked very impressive. A lot of power. He was able to hit through the court using his aggression. I mean, I was extremely impressed. And we talk about a guy like Medjedovic. He's got a great record right now on the clay. Won the Naples Challenger, I believe it was. Got a lot of confidence from that. And he seems to just be able to find ways to win these matches, and that's a huge positive when you're going up against a guy like Nuno Borges. Borges at his best, he's going to be a wall. He's going to be able to deflect some of these powerful shots from Medjedovic, but I do feel like Medjedovic has the ability to open the court up, and I like the guy that has the experience of playing some closer matches, but 2, the guy that can take the racket out of your hands with his aggression. I think both those things are Medjedovic, so I got to pick him to advance over Borges. Looking at this half as a whole, I mean, you want to talk about some opportunities here, guys. We got 4 guys remaining in the quarterfinals in this half. One's going to be able to get out to a final of a 500, a huge opportunity, especially for these guys coming into this tournament. They look at the draw, they see Carlos Alcaraz, they see Alex de Minaur, they see Jack Draper and Andrei Rublev and Etcheverry. They think, no way am I going to be able to get through this draw without really being pushed. And some of these guys have gotten through in straight sets. So huge opportunities for them. Machac, I mean, like, if he makes it out to the finals, and honestly, even more so, if he wins this tournament, this is a huge opportunity for him to kind of turn it around. We saw what he was able to do in the tune-ups of Australia, winning a tournament there, then being able to take Musetti to a 5-setter. He was the only guy to really push Musetti until Musetti had to retire against Djokovic. But Machac was coming in with a lot of confidence. This could springboard him into a very strong clay season. Andrei Rublev, a guy that really hasn't done much in about a year. He's made some quarterfinals. If he can get out here to a semifinal or a final, I mean, again, big opportunities for him and a big confidence booster to believe in what you're doing here, especially since he hasn't seen much success on the clay as of late. Medjedovic, a guy that's kind of coming up to try to prove himself, won a few challengers. Now he's in the 500 level ATP tournament. I mean, that's a huge ask for him, but he finds himself in the quarterfinals against Nuno Borges, and he's got a great opportunity to come through. And again, Nuno Borges, great opportunity for him, comes through, sees Jack Draper in his draw, gets a nice draw with Mannarino, but able to come through him and Etcheverry. If he's able to make it out to the semifinals or a final, again, another springboard. You see a lot of confidence from guys like that who are able to kind of turn their seasons around and start to play with a lot more confidence. But for me, if I got these 4 guys here, I think it's going to be Machac in the finals. And I really think that's the storyline. I think Machac is going to be the one that's going to make it out to the finals, might be able to win this tournament and kind of get that season going again, get the mojo going again. So I really think Machac is going to make it out here. Let's take a look at the next half of the draw. Here's a look at Musetti's half of the draw. First match we're going to look at is Fils against Musetti, and Fils able to get through Nakashima. This was a great showing by Fils. The forehand was clicking, and just exactly what we kind of talked about. The Nakashima movement was really exposed. He moves so much better, so much smoother on a hard court, and here it was more so if you watched when Fils was able to put the pace and acceleration on the forehand, and Nakashima had to kind of move out and absorb that ball. There just wasn't that trust in the footing to kind of slide out there and be able to deflect it. He would always leave that ball kind of short, and then Fils would just be able to just either put the ball away or take the offense immediately after that. Fils able to get out to an early break start, and that definitely helped him. Nakashima had chances to break back immediately in the second game of the first set, but Fils able to kind of shut the door there, and that just started to get him rolling there. The forehand was booming, the return was really good. The Nakashima return looked decent, and Nakashima came out. Obviously, he had the right idea, trying to expose some cross courts here with his cross court backhand to the backhand of Fils, but it just wasn't enough. And Fils has a lot of variety on that backhand. We saw him throw in some slices, some drop shots. It wasn't nothing really that Nakashima threw at him really had him faltering there. So good win for Fils, 6-2, 6-3. He looks pretty solid here, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about his matchup with Musetti in a second. The next match was Musetti and Muté, and this was a 6-3, 6-4 win for Musetti. And I don't know if I would call it, it does you look at the score line and you think, oh, that's a pretty straightforward match. I felt like it wasn't. I thought Muté actually played pretty well. Muté always impresses me with his ability to just, a couple years ago, he had the issue with the right wrist, so he has to hit all slices. He's got to slice one-hander instead of that two-hander. So, I mean, that's like one side that's basically just up for the taking, if you can hit it to that side. But he covers it so well. He hits his slice so low. I mean, we saw Musetti start to attack that side and open up and hit out to the forehand side of Muté in the beginning. I think Musetti coming in with the right game plan. But then Muté starting to move around the ball, started to throw in the drop shots a little bit more, drop shotting off that backhand side, really moving Musetti around. Obviously, Musetti, a phenomenal mover on the clay, but Muté just gave him everything he could handle. And the one play that I really like is that the aggressive ball out to the Muté backhand, because he's going to slice it, so the ball's always going to sit up. The problem is he defends the next shot so well. We saw Musetti do this like 2 or 3 times, and even when Musetti's coming in on the volley, Muté's just reading the ball so quickly and getting to it, whether he's hitting a nice little slider past Musetti or lobbing him. He's getting to most of these balls. So it's very interesting, a guy that has this type of style, he's just become so good at being able to defend that backhand side because he knows the plays that everyone's going to throw at him. Obviously, they're going to be looking to target that side. But I would say this was not an easy match for Musetti. The second set alone, back and forth, break chances for Muté in that 4-3 game. And then at 4-all, Muté gets broken on a really awesome point, like a 20-plus shot rally. And then Musetti's able to hold for a 6-3, 6-4 win. He now takes on Arthur Fils. Looking at their head-to-head, it is 1-1 split between the two. Let's go through both those matchups. First matchup was in 2024 on the second round of Monte Carlo. Musetti able to win that 6-3, 7-5 over Arthur Fils. And then in Indian Wells in 2025, Fils able to get some revenge, winning 3-6, 7-6, 6-3. And let me just look at that Indian Wells. So I just wanted to see if Musetti had a lead in this match, or in the second set, and he had a match point. in the second set, being up 6-5. So very interesting there. He had a match point at in the second set. So very interesting match for Musetti to lose. Could have won it in straights. But Feast just a little bit too tough there. And we know that Feast forehand, especially at Indian Wells where the ball kind of sits a little bit, he's able to hit it. He's able to hit it very aggressively there on the forehand side. Feast coming through, beating Atman in 3 sets, and Nakashima in straights. Musetti beating Landaluce and Mute both in straight sets. And interesting for Musetti, he's played 2 different styles. You have that aggression of Landaluce with hitting those big forehands and big, strong ground strokes on both sides. And then you have the touch and the feel of Mute. Just 2 different styles for Musetti to beat, and he's able to handle both on the clay. So maybe he's starting to come around a little bit here on this surface. Musetti coming in, he's 2-1 on the clay, 19-4 last year, 18-10 the year before. His one loss was to Vacero in straight sets, 2 tough straight sets in Monte Carlo. And can we fault him for that match? That this was a guy that ended up making it out to the semifinals and giving Carlos Alcaraz all he can handle. Feast, on the other hand, is 2-0 on the clay, only playing these 2 matches here in Barcelona. 10-4 last year, 14-10 the year before. So similar records from these guys here. I think this is going to be a very close match, and obviously we know Feast has been playing the better of the 2, so it's a little bit hard for me to pick against him here. I need to see it from Musetti. I think this is a big step up. This is a step up from Landaluce and Mute to beat someone like Arthur Feast. I'm going to go with Feast here. I think it's going to be a 3-setter. I feel like Musetti, he's still kind of putting himself in some tough situations. I mean, you talk about today against Mute, he faced a lot of break points. He was able to fight them off. He faced 6 break points today. So some precarious positions that he's putting himself in. I think Feast is going to be able to earn some of those break points as well. So I'm just not ready to back Musetti yet. Last year, obviously, if it was these 2 guys, last year I'm going Musetti all the way. But this year, I like what I'm seeing from Feast. I like the way he handled Nakashima. I like the way he looked hitting his huge forehand and being able to defend the backhand-to-backhand rally. So I'm going to go Feast. He's going to advance in 3 sets. And here's a look at Musetti's half of the draw. I'll talk to you a little bit about that Norrie and Jodar match. We had a full breakdown in our quarterfinals part 1. I'll talk to you a little bit about that match, though. They did play in Acapulco, and Jodar looked amazing. He was able to just rip his forehand and backhand. He looked like he was hitting really clean. Do I think that the ball's going to sit up as much here? It might, but I also think that Jodar is playing extremely good clay court tennis right now. It's not to say that Norrie isn't. I think Norrie has fought a couple of 2 hard matches. He's definitely game tough right now. But I think it's going to take a very special performance from one of these players to take Jodar out. You're talking about a guy that right now is riding in. He's undefeated on the clay right now. I see him getting out here. I think he's going to beat either Feast or Musetti and get out to the finals. But I really like Jodar here to advance to the finals, and honestly, I could see him winning this whole thing and staying undefeated. It would be the story going into Rome with Rafa Jodar, and obviously this being the Barcelona Open, they would be so happy, ecstatic to have a guy like this, another Spanish hopeful coming in here and winning. But yeah, I think Jodar is going to be able to make it out of this draw and into the semis. Looking at some of these other guys here, Norrie, I think it would take a lot for him to get the revenge. We did talk about how these matches, especially if you get if you get your face kicked in by a guy, normally you're gonna come back and you're gonna wanna beat them a little bit more. You're gonna be thinking about that match. You know this match has been living in the back of Norrie's mind, and now he gets a rematch to kind of prove himself again. But we saw Carabelli did the same thing, got his teeth kicked in 6-2, 6-1 in Marrakesh. We thought maybe it would be a little bit closer. It was, but it was still 6-3, 6-3. There wasn't really much that Carabelli could offer to bother Jodar, and I think that's going to be a little bit similar to what we see from Norrie. Jodar, we just talked about, great opportunity for him. Feast, again, this would be great for him to come out here. I believe he was a semifinalist last year, so for him to make the semis again, he's really liking the clay. It gives him a lot of time to step around and rip his forehand. So we are seeing that aggressive style from Feast. Nakashima had to deal with that today, and then Musetti. I mean, you talk about a guy who needs to jumpstart his season again. Had a great Australian Open run, but we haven't seen anything since. We haven't even seen a win since. This tournament has gotten him 2 wins now, and if he's able to come out here, if he's able to win this tournament, I think the whole clay season turns around a little bit for Musetti. And right now, Musetti is, I would say, top 10, maybe a little bit outside top 10 clay quarters for me right now. Last year, he was top 4 easily for me. I think if we see him win this tournament and he's able to make a deep run in Rome, then we're starting to look at the Musetti that we had last year. And obviously, we'll talk about these when we start to do previews of the French Open and everything, but we got to see how he does here. If he's able to take Feast out, that's going to be a good win. I know Feast, decent clay quarter, a much better hard quarter, but it would still be a very solid win for Musetti. And then how about a potential Musetti-Jodar semifinal? Musetti giving Jodar the first loss on the clay. That would be amazing. But let me know what you guys think. We'll talk about those matches when we get to it. Post your picks in the comments. Here's a look at our round of 16 records. 4-3, so not too bad. Didn't include that Alcaraz withdrawal because they didn't even play a point. But hopefully we do a little bit better for the quarterfinals. As always, guys, thanks again for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share your picks in the comments. Share the video. Once the quarterfinals are concluded, we'll have a video out recapping those and taking a look at our semifinal matchups. Really looking forward to it. I'll see you guys in the next video.